Stehen wir jetzt stehen wir jetzt mit ein paar Kabals hat with those truths we find Ruth was knocking, she wanted to follow her mother-in-law, her figure, and so she expressed herself, Pashetechi Eilech, Pashetolini Olin, Ach Hamoves Yafrid Beini Veinoich. Very memorable words. The first shot is that she wanted to be so close as they dovuk, to cling to her mother-in-law, that the only thing that would, the only thing that would separate them is the mavis itself. But there's something even deeper than that. The Chazal tell us that by Kabbalah HaTorah, when the Klal Yisrael, they refuse to accept the Torah, Kof Aleim Har Kigigis. Banishlam turned over the mountain, Har Kigigis, like on top of them, a corner of the mountain, and he threatened them, in Pekavla Satorah Mutov, if you'll be willing to accept the Torah, you'll go out from here alive. Bimlad Shom Teiraschem. So let's listen to the Pshat. She said, Batalini, Bashetechi, Batli Olim. Your Hanhoge, your Kabbalah Satorah was because your elder Zadish, your ancestors, they were threatened with Moves in the Kabbalah Satorah Mutzim, Rav Shon Teiraschem. So Moves. By me, my Kabbalah Satorah is all Barat Satorah. It's only with my own completely my own decision, my own free will. The Bechukosai Telechu is Shmartem Asisum Maisom. So the Klal Yisrael will try and get benched. They'll be blessed with all sorts of brachas. One time, it's all beyond Hashem. So in it, he said like this here, there are three instances. He said in one instance everybody knows, three know. He says in one instance only two know. And the third instance only the Rebbeinu Shalom knows. He says, if his pants are torn and he goes without a kapote, so he knows, the Shchenim know, and the Hazen and Tzrissen, and the Rebbeinu Shalom knows. If he goes out with Tzrissen, Hazen, and gas, and he goes with a kapote, so the Shchenim don't know, it's covered up. But he knows that Rebbeinu Shalom knows. He says when he'll go out in the street, that's not Tzrissen, he said that only the Rebbeinu Shalom knows. There was a chaplain in the army, in Bechukosai Telechu Shad Vasisam get all the brachas. In Bechukosai Timosu, so there was a chaplain in the army of Hersh Lavazer. He wasn't well, and he had medical coverage in Walter Reed Hospital. So there at Sefirah, they have their chaplains came in to visit him. He was gerade sitting on his bed, kalt mitten daven. Natürlich kein Machzig sein. On some thousand till he was davening, he couldn't be Machzig. So he motioned to this chaplain, who was a so-called rabbi, told him, he motioned that he should take a seat. Geht weiter, halt mit dem Davenen. Nachher mit einmal he sees that he becomes hysterical, and a chlipit, he breaks out into an outburst of tears, he's crying. He ran over quickly to him to see if everything's all right. So he saw nothing, he didn't catch his breath, he's not stricken with any kind of sudden seizure or illness. So continued. I said, okay, David. Then he says to him, the chaplain says to him, he says, let me tell you. He says, what happened? He says, I'm a reform rabbi. That's my livelihood. He says, there always were certain uncertainties in my mind as to whether my congregation, so-called, if I'm leading them down the right path or if I'm leading them to the path of destruction. He said, when I came in and I saw before me you at the Taliesin film, he said, concentrating so on Tzazivul Kavone, Tazam in Ernstkeit, he said, it flashed back to the very last time I put on till my bar mitzvah. That sort of brought closer to reality, the thought that perhaps I'm really leading my family, my congregants to destruction. So he made Sefirah, and thousands head from the Bnei Shalom. When I hear the Shem Torah and all the Dikdukim, talking hit all the dinim from Sefirah with als wie hier dankzij vieren, dinim from Avelis, and he was a contractor. So he was making a bid for a big job. It's a $500,000 job by a Mineski Goyish firm, a Goyish firm, $500,000 bid. So he turns to his wife, he says, Fegi, he says, you know, I'll come no matter how cheap, how I'll beat the others, and how well I'll present what I'm going to do. They won't look at it responsibly. They'll think some kind of tramp, a bum, that maybe he's on drugs, a hippie, doesn't look civilized, doesn't shave, and so much at stake. Maybe I should shave. So she says, you know, Chaim, David, until now, we, Baruch Hashem, have Parnassi. You think you never did something like that before, like to shave, going in Sefirah, you better think it over again. Or, after Morgan, he comes here and says, the is too much at stake. I thought it over. He said, I'd better shave. I guess he took the chonet with his best business suit, the white shirt, tie. He shaves himself. He comes with his bid to his firm, and the aides under the president of the firm, they told him to take a seat. Everybody sits and waits, and some 20 minutes later, they call him in. He said, Mr. Goldman, we don't know how you did it. Your bid beat everybody's. He said, and also the manner that you're going to reform the work, he says, is amazing. Oh, he says, you're getting the job. Mr. Stevens, the president's going to see you in about 15 minutes. Take a seat and wait. I says to Havek, and he folds his hands, he thinks to himself, you know, it's a hatayr vibe, my friend. But what they understand about the business world, what do they understand? What's what they say? I could have lost a $500,000 job here. And the clock ticks away. At the end of the 15 minutes, the president of the firm comes out. He says, Mr. Goldman, let me shake your hand. He said, we're very impressed with the man you're going to farm work, and certainly your bid is the cheapest. So here I'm signing a contract, and you're getting the job. But I just want to ask you one question. He said, yesterday my banker, Mr. Bernie Cohn, came to me, and he said he wasn't shaven. So I asked him, what's the meaning of this? So he told me that a few times during the year, he says, we have periods of mourning now, and then when we mourn the temple, it was a glorious period in Jewish history. He said, when the Almighty resided in our midst, he said, and that was taken from us. There was bloodshed. We were driven from our land, and now also there was bloodshed. So we mourn that period in Jewish history like we mourn a parent that we lost. Can I ask you something, Mr. Goldman? Why aren't you observing that custom? He said, well, I'll tell you, Mr. Stevens. He said, I generally do observe it. But being that I had such an important appointment with you, and you might not be familiar with our customs, you might misjudge, and you won't take my bid responsibly. So I want to make sure that I put my best foot forward. He says, really? I see. For money, for $500,000, you cut corners against the Almighty. He said, who knows what you'll do against me? He said, forget about it. He talked to the Hashem Daki, he got me Yashimita. Khalek Kashu Emer. Rosa Kashmok Zaki says, Israel, the Fika Himon Termis, Shinamar.